Alrighty, we are now live, I do believe. Hopefully we are live. I think so. Sorry, we've had some serious technical difficulties. And we are live now, so I think we are good to go. Yeah, I think we're good to go here. So just throw it in the chat that we are on a different link now, because unfortunately it just tends to be what happens now. So with that being said, it has been a little bit of a start, but today's been a pretty good day so far. If we're being completely honest here, a really good start. Lots of trades to talk about. So we'll just make sure here that we are in fact live. I'm like 95% sure of it. So hopefully that's the case, and it does appear we're live now, so we can breathe a sigh of fresh air. So welcome to the NHL trade deadline. I'm sorry the intro wasn't quite what you had hoped. It's been a interesting start, but nonetheless we're here and we're gonna start talking trades. I'm just gonna make sure everything's in order here just before anything too crazy goes on. So with that being said, hopefully you guys are all having a great day. Like I said, I do apologize for the confusion. A little bit of a slip up in terms of the streaming software. We're starting brand new here, so hopefully the audio is okay as well. But with that being said, let's hop right on into it today. Obviously, a lot of trades have also happened since we went live, so I haven't got a good chance to look at them because I tried to go live at about 11:55. It's now, I believe, 12:30. So with that being said, it's been a start, but nonetheless, we are here now, and we are going to enjoy the day. Because obviously, let me know if you have any trades that you think could happen. If you have any questions about potential trades, any sort of that. But with that being said, we'll flip off of this. If we can get back to the schedule. Hopefully this will work, and I do believe we're back. Okay, there we go. Welcome in, everybody. It's gonna be a good one. Definitely stay tuned. Make sure to like, subscribe, all of that. But with that being said, let's take a look, starting with some of the more notable trades from today, and we're gonna flip over to this one, which hopefully will line up here, as we have a couple sort of big trades to announce, starting with, I believe there was a couple pretty large ones coming in the last couple hours, with Tyler Toffoli heading to the Winnipeg Jets, a third and a second pick. Pretty good return, I think, for the Devils. Obviously, he's headed out after this year, so you're getting him sort of as a rental. Winnipeg reacting to a lot of what other teams are doing right now. In my opinion, this is a really, really good deal. I like the idea of it. I think it's a good deal, and I do realize now that you can't actually see the screen, so I'm going to see if I can figure out how to adjust that. So I do apologize once again. It was working earlier, and then obviously it's not working anymore, so hopefully with any luck this will work. So I really do apologize. It's just it's been one of those days. All right, this should be working now, hopefully. I assume it might now. I'd hope it will. We'll see. So if we go there, we hit that button. This should hopefully work. Hopefully. Time will tell. And sorry, I have the stream up on my phone here just to make sure it is working, because I'm like, yeah, it's been just been one of those sort of hard to say kind of days. And I do believe it's working now. Okay. Welcome in, everybody. to the trade deadline. I apologize for the confusion, especially with the changing stream links. I apologize for that as well. But nonetheless, we are here talking about some trades. So we'll start off here with Tyler Toffoli heading to the Winnipeg Jets. Exchange was a third and a second, so a pretty good return for a guy that's heading out at the end of the year. But what you're really looking at here in this deal is Winnipeg is starting to react to what's going on around them. We've seen a bunch of teams get their guys. We saw Colorado go on a tangent the other day. We'll cover those trades, of course, but also, you saw the other day with Vegas, and all these teams are slowly but surely going and making their way through, building up their teams for a potential playoff push. And then this was another one that happened about 20 odd minutes ago with the Buffalo Sabres trading their captain, Kyle Okposo, to the Florida Panthers. And the Florida Panthers are going to be a team that I'm really looking for here. They are a really solid team already, and yet they seem to just keep getting better. And, when you look at it, it's a scary sort of move for them. And I do like what they're looking at here. For the return prospect, nothing too crazy, and a conditional 7th, which I believe can turn into a 5th round, if I'm not mistaken. So that's another good one. And then Chad Ruhwedel for the Pens. And obviously, this is the start of the start, right? The start of the end of Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's going into that rebuild slowly but surely. And nonetheless, this is where we are now, right? With the Pittsburgh Penguins slowly but surely heading to what you might consider to be a rebuild. Is it going to be a rebuild? Who knows? But at the end of the day, I do expect it. And it just got reported that I do believe Jason Zucker is now gone as well. Never mind. That's from Arizona now. So that's the recent one, as well as I didn't actually see this one, but Pat Maroon is now a Bruin. Which means there's likely going to be another trade in terms of and it just got reported. The Devils did retain 50% of the Toffoli deal with the Jets. So that sort of frees up a little bit of cap room for the Jets to maneuver their way through. And here's Pat Maroon's journey. Drafted by Philly, traded to Anaheim, traded to Edmonton, traded to New Jersey, signed by St. Louis, signed by Tampa. Remember, 2 cup years there. Traded to Minnesota, and then traded to Boston. So Boston is getting a Stanley Cup champion, obviously someone who's been there, done that, and he can definitely play the role that Boston is looking for. That's the big thing that Boston does. They don't go out and get the big guys normally. Obviously, there's probably going to be times, and Chad Ruhwedel is gone as a Penguin. So we're going to see here, I believe Cap Friendly will most likely have it. So we'll open up good old Cap Friendly to see what deals have been made over the last few minutes to an hour. So Ben Myers for a 5th round pick, nothing too crazy there. Just trying to get away some contracts, as well as Kuznetsov. And this was a big one. So the Hurricanes do acquire Evgeny Kuznetsov at 50% retained. That 3rd round pick is not to basically get Kuznetsov, but to get him at a cheaper price. If you remember, the Washington Capitals did send him down to the AHL Hershey Bears. So with that being said, there's no real value on Kuznetsov's part for a trade because the Hurricanes could have picked him up. What they're really looking for there was the retained salary. And, it's a good pickup for the Hurricanes. If he can be anything like he was back on that 2017 run, the Hurricanes are in for a pretty good team. And we think about it, right? They're a solid team all in all. As we're not trying to watch Mission Impossible tonight. And then, obviously, the big trade. Coming in, I believe it was last night. It might have been in the morning. But right around 12, there was a huge deal with Carolina acquiring Jake Gensel from the Pittsburgh Penguins. And we'll talk about this today. There's going to be quite a large we see it. Pittsburgh starting to move out. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to be that good this year, if we're being completely honest. Just sort of what we've seen from them, they've slowly started to decline. And it's unfortunate to see, obviously, with Crosby in his final years, heading towards a rebuild. So one of the big things I was thinking about, and laid in bed last night was what happens with Crosby if, they completely trade their team. And one of the things I was thinking is if they trade their team, Crosby might not want to play, and then where does he go? And we've heard trade talks between Vancouver, we've heard trade talks with Boston, we've heard trade talks with a whole bunch of teams. But the question is, will Crosby be traded? I think it's honestly, if you would have asked me this a couple days ago, I would have said absolutely not. There's no way. But we're starting to see it. The team isn't really built around Crosby anymore. they're trading their assets. Does that mean a team like Boston, who's in desperate need of a center, goes after a team like Pittsburgh, says, here, you can have, a Lysell or a Johnny Beecher, who's both those guys are down in the AHL right now? Or, or do they just say, here, you can have good old Linus Ullmark and see who in the goalie market's interested? Another big one, and I think someone in the chat said it a little bit earlier for the original video, was, hey, what about a good old-fashioned, and sorry, let me just delete this video before we get too far into this, because otherwise it's going to drive me nuts. Yes, delete. Okay. So, and I was thinking, right, it was the good old-fashioned Jake Gensel, right? Crosby's gone. Their entire team is slowly getting traded. Crosby, if Malkin goes, Boston's looking for a second center. Might not be Pittsburgh. But what it could be is the good old-fashioned Leafs. And the Leafs, right now, we think about their goaltending, they sort of have a whole bunch of them. They have Wall. They have Samsonov. They have the third one, Martin Jones, right? They have all these goalies. But, I mean, if I'm counting goalies, those are 3 of the exact same caliber type goaltenders. And I mean, in my opinion, is it that much better, really? So I was thinking, okay, what teams would they look for? I mean, Markstrom's the obvious contender, but we've heard rumors of him going to New Jersey. Whether that's still the case, who knows? It might not be. But then I was thinking to myself, there's one team in particular that has an abundance of goaltending, high caliber goaltending at that might be interested in a trade. And that trade might have been, the good old black and gold here with the Toronto Maple Leafs to say, well, if we give you Ullmark, we'll take back someone pretty good, maybe like a Marner or a Tavares or a Nylander, right? Because Boston's in desperate need of a high-end forward, as well as a couple of depth defensemen as well, I'd say. Forbort and Grzelcyk are both guys that I'd be surprised not to see move at this point. And other trades, other big ones. Beauvillier was a good pickup from Nashville. I don't know if they'll do too much with him. Yakov Trenin, he's one of those guys that's been around but hasn't quite found his groove. So he'll be a good fit out in Colorado. Duheim as well. We sort of see the Avs are slowly but surely building up their team. The Leafs as well, they acquired Joel Edmondson. Short of their long stretch of depth defensemen at the deadline, we saw it last year when they went after Eric Gustafsson in exchange for the first, and Rasmus Sandin was who went back for the first and Gustafsson. So we sort of see this with the Leafs. They make some interesting moves, and then of course the big one with the Vegas Golden Knights. They've been on their game the last little while and we think about it, they still have all their first round picks in the next, I believe it is 2 drafts, 2024 draft and 2025 draft, because that's what they want to do. It's just, do they want to, do other teams in the West want to go for it? Because Vegas is looking like a real solid contender this year. And Miromanov, he's a decent prospect, a first round pick and a third round pick. But when you look at it, that's like 75% retained on Hannafin's deal, and which gives Vegas a lot more room. We think about all the guys on LTIR, all the guys on the injured reserve, all of them just slowly but surely dropping like flies. And I'm very curious to know, whether or not Vegas makes any more moves today. They've made us a pretty good, solid, a few additions. But I think there is definitely room for them to improve upon. Then, of course, with the Rangers, we have Alexander Wenberg as well, going to the Rangers in exchange for a second and a fourth with the conditional pick, which, to be honest, isn't too much. But I do like this deal for the Rangers. I think it's a really solid pickup, especially as a team, that's looking to contend in the playoffs. I think it's a good step in the right direction for them. So we'll see if they can continue that and keep that one up. But with that being said, if there's any trades you're looking for, any trades you think could happen, be sure to drop it down in the chat below. Definitely a potential here. And this was sort of the interesting part with the Colorado deal. And we saw Bowen Byram in exchange for Casey Middlestat. Sean Walker basically replaced Byram, and then they traded Ryan Johansson, who had a higher cap hit, got a Middlestat. So in my opinion, that's a really, really good deal. Sure, they dropped the first round pick as well, but at the same time, Byram was never going to play with the Colorado Avalanche. You think about their defense core. There's too many guys on that list that they have to go. And it's just, you can't make that deal right now. And as you keep moving down here, Florida Panthers with Vladimir Tarasenko, which is a huge, huge deal, in my opinion. And I think the Panthers are really going to find a nice groove with him. And remember, the big problem with this deal was the no-move clause for Tarasenko. He basically said it's either Florida or it's nothing. And so the result was a third and a fourth round pick at 50% retained. So in reality, if Florida wins, it's a third. But, I mean, who knows, right? They have a really good team this year. They are starting to emerge as sort of a favorite in the East. I'd say them. You can make the argument for maybe the Rangers. But other than that, Boston's always sort of kicking around there too. But they are a really good team this year, much better than they were last year. So we'll see if that can carry through. Then, of course, Vegas acquiring Anthony Mantha, adding to that West. The West is the killer group last year. We think back to the killer group this year. When we think back to last year, it was the Atlantic craziness, right? We saw the Leafs make a million moves. The Bruins traded away half their team for a bunch of rental guys, I might add. The Panthers did the same thing. Tampa did the same thing. Everyone in that Atlantic went crazy, as well as the Metro did a little bit as well, especially those high-end teams. So when we think about it this year, it's sort of the other way around, which is definitely interesting. Then the Lyubushkin deal to the Leafs, reacquiring him. I thought that was a really good pickup for the Leafs. They obviously are lacking their defenseman right now, so I think it is a pretty solid deal for them to make as well. And then we have the Christopher Tanev deal going to, I believe it was the Devils. This thing is rather hard to read, but is it the Devils or is it why does my brain work? No, I do believe it is the Dallas Stars there, which is an interesting move as well. Yeah, it's the Dallas Stars who acquire him, which is another interesting move, right? They're taking the 25% retained, and that's what you want to see at a lot of these teams who are a little bit more handcuffed when it comes to cap. I think it's a good, solid option. And then the Habs, first round pick they got and a third in exchange for Sean Monahan, which, I mean, when the Jets, once again, sort of shoring up their guys. We saw them get their big guy again today into Foley. They get Monahan. Both those guys are really solid. And then we're back to the Elias Lindholm deal, which, if we remember back to that deal, was rumored that he was going to get traded yet again in pretty recently to the Boston Bruins in a sort of 3-team deal for Gensel. But nonetheless, that did not happen. So we'll head back to Twitter, X, or whatever we're calling it nowadays, to see if there's any more moves. But with that being said, it's been we're pretty well caught up on what's been going on today. We'll make sure we haven't missed any new trades. Rubiadol still. And I mean, when we look at it, right, the Penguins are headed down a road to rebuild, and I think just sort of the idea of that is a little alarming. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see, a team capitalize on that opportunity, right? When you have a team going full on yard sale, you're more likely, at least, to try and capitalize on that. And I think it is a very good option for them to try and capitalize on that. But time will tell, of course. But with that being said, obviously, good start to today. And when we look at it, we want to see a lot of trades go down. Trade call complete. So Tyler Toffoli is now officially, go back to here. I do apologize. I'm looking off the phone and Twitter, so we'll do it on here. Trade call is complete. Devils trade Tyler Toffoli to Winnipeg for a second in 2025 and a third in 2024 with 50% retained, which is going to be a really solid deal. So we'll take a look here at the lines for the Jets, which, I mean, when we look at it, right, you're probably seeing a guy like Toffoli fit in here with probably on the wing with Scheifele and Connor, I think. Would be a solid option. That you can move Iafallo up and Meskov down. I just think when you look at a guy like Toffoli, you're probably looking on those top two lines. He's a really, really good top six option. But obviously, we'll see. We'll see if there's any bigger moves to come from today. The one thing I am looking to see is what do the Penguins end up doing with Sidney Crosby? Obviously, he's a player that has some seriously great respect throughout the league, and we'll see if he decides to do anything with that, if he sort of just calls it and throws in the old towel. And on the other stream, we did actually have a poll going up. So I will ask you whether you guys think, and please let me know down in the chat, if you think how many trades you think there'll be today. I got my prediction is 24. I don't know, just sort of a number out there. But be sure to let me know down below who you think and how many trades will be happening today, as well as any trades you might be interested in sort of talking about. Obviously, we are here to chat today, as we have to kill another good old-fashioned probably 2 hours or so before the deadline does get hit. So, as we move along here, big deals, right? Big deals are going on. We'll just sort of see if there's anything new here. This might be me today. To all who refresh, agonize, scroll, rinse, and repeat all day long, as I'm sure many of you guys are doing as well. But it's quite the day, right? And obviously, whenever it's trade deadline day, it's full of excitement, full of fun, and hopefully it continues. And we'll see if there's any more deals here. Trade call is complete, nothing too new there. But let's now talk about the standings, because obviously there's not too much to talk about here. No new trades have been announced quite yet. But we do have the Florida Panthers in first place in the Atlantic, with Boston following pretty close behind. And we sort of heard some rumors kicking around that Boston was willing to go on either of these two, or trade with the Vancouver Canucks for sure. Remember, that was the Elias Lindholm deal, whether he was going to go to Boston, so that way Vancouver had the cap space to pick up a guy like Jake Gensel. But we will see, right? It's obviously plenty of time still to go, just on whether or not they can make the move. And I think the Zucker deal end up getting announced. I think the Zucker deal might have got announced. Zucker. Not quite yet, I don't believe. But nonetheless, it's another solid deal all around. We'll see if there's any more big names flying. And I think when we look at it, a lot of the big names are starting to go off the list. The one name I'm still looking at is what do the Bruins do with Linus Ullmark? What do the Bruins do with, DeBrusk? DeBrusk is another name that seems to be, his head always seems to be on the block. I mean, same could be said about Ullmark, but Grzelcyk as well. The pylon Forbert. We'll see if there's any big moves there. The Leafs are a team I'm really looking for to sort of see, are they going to do something big at this deadline? Or are they just going to, continue to sort of throw it away? And obviously TSN Hockey is having a blast today, as they probably should, because what can I say? They seem to have fun, which is all you can ever ask for. So as we come back here, I think this will work. This should now return me to here. I will properly welcome everybody in. I apologize once again for the what's the word I'm looking for? Technical difficulties from this morning, but I would like to welcome everybody in. Thank you for being here today. Obviously, we're going to have a blast. Lots of trades still coming. There's been a little bit of a short break right now, so there's not too much to talk about. We'll also throw up a poll here, or maybe we'll go with the Q&A. We're going to see, who do you think is still to get traded? Who do you think is still to be traded? So I do believe now you can answer this question in the poll. Let me know what you think. Let me know who you think will get traded. I think there's definitely a lot of solid options still left on the board. And obviously goalies as well. We haven't really talked about Jacob Markstrom quite yet. He's another guy that I do really think has the potential to be traded. I don't know, obviously, if Calgary thinks that they have a shot at the playoffs this year. Obviously, if they're going to keep him, they do think that they will. He's sort of the main reason why we should pull it up here. When we look at it, right, the Calgary Flames are down here, 67 points in the wild card race. That's results right around here, right on that brink. 6 points, game in hand, so really something like 4 points also important to remember, the Vegas Golden Knights have got a lot better. So we'll see if whether or not, that has any big impact on what, they decide to do. Will it? I don't know. Is there the potential for it? Absolutely. So we'll bring it back here. Once again, it's just us again. And it's another one, right? It's just it's an interesting sort of deal on whether or not there's going to be another big massive trade today. And I think obviously there's still the potential for it. We're about 2 hours and 15 away from the trade deadline. Trades will also roll in as they're being processed, but nothing has happened quite yet. And I think it's important to take note of, especially because the Zucker deal just got announced. So we'll pull it back over here to we'll pull back over to Twitter here. So we'll go there. We'll go right there. And then, so that being said, Coyotes get a 6th-round pick in return for Zucker and no salary retention. So the Coyotes basically will free up a little bit of cap space, probably to take on some contracts. Obviously, the Coyotes aren't looking to, contend this year. 55 points, which are about 20 points away from what they need to be at. So their whole goal here is that they're going to, sort of trade away their cap space right now, take on more guys that'll play cap role and sort of play buddy to the guys who need to sort of cut down on their cap. And I think that's probably going to be a big part of what, the Arizona Coyotes are looking to do here. So with that being said, if you do, let me know in the question box, or you can just let me know in the chat as well, who you think is going to be traded in this, traded today. If you think anybody's going to be traded for that matter. Obviously, there's still the potential that no one gets traded for the rest of the day. Unlikely, I'd say, but, it's definitely possible. But with that being said, so we'll see. I have thoughts on what Yzerman may be involved with. He's it's hard to say, right? Because he's right on the brink, right? Yes, I want to make the playoffs. No, let's be one more year. They're right in that sort of realm where it's, we can make a deep push if we want to, but we're also going to risk a lot more. So I think one of the things with Yzerman is that you always can trust what he's going to do, right? Because he's proven himself efficient at that. But one of the big things I'm also sort of thinking about is, is it something that he wants to do? And so overall, I don't know, to be honest. He's probably going to just bite his tongue on this one. I think just looking at the team that Detroit has, a lot of young guys, a lot of young talent, they might broker sort of like one of those one-year deals where, they start taking in picks. But I don't think that they need to make a big move at this deadline, quite like, you'd probably think that they would. But nonetheless, of course, time will tell on this one. But yeah. Okay, so we will pull back to this, I do believe. Should work. Okay, perfect. And I do apologize once again for the, you can probably tell, just sort of getting accustomed to the new stuff. I tried it last night. It worked really well. Then this morning it didn't seem to work quite so well. So we're definitely working through it. Rust apparently is back off the LTIR, which is just sort of interesting to me. Whether or not, he's another guy with heads rolling, right, to see if they can sort of move him along. And I think there's definitely the potential for it. Whether or not they do it, who knows. But we'll see if there's any more names slowly starting to make their way. And this is, oh my God, blockbuster trade here with Turner Elson heading to the Minnesota Wild in exchange for Nick Paton, former Leafs legend there. And I think this deal isn't really that important, but in my opinion, New York rather is the winner of this deal. I always liked the way Nick Baton played, sort of that fourth line grinder role, what you sort of want from a guy like Baton, who, he's not necessarily going to be your highest skilled player, but he is probably pretty good. But with that being said, one move so far from the Bruins. This is another team who I'm sort of relying upon to make a decent move. They did extend Parker Wotherspoon today. Wotherspoon was a guy who, was an AHL signing, didn't think much of it. But he's turned out to be quite the player for Boston, sort of serving as that shutdown pairing guy. And I think, especially with what the Bruins have been looking to do, they aren't the most skilled team. They lost, you want to rhyme the names off, Hall, Foligno, just in the one trade. Then you had Bertuzzi, Hathaway, Orlov, Bergeron, Krejci, right? The list goes on and on and on. And then, of course, they had to they thought there was going to be a rebuilding year. I thought so too. I made a video about how the Bruins were screwed this year. Sure enough, one first place later, half or 3/4 of the way through the season, and I look pretty dumb saying that. So, obviously, Boston's always been a team that sort of just finds their way. And this year was really no different. They played good, solid hockey, and I was really impressed with how they've been playing. But yeah, it's just one of those things, right? It's the goal of it is to play to your best potential, and I do think that at least most of the time it seems to work. But with that being said, let's see if this works. I don't really know if this one's going to do anything. I don't believe it is. But nonetheless, right? Boston is just one of those teams that sort of kicks it around, and when they need to, they kick it into that high gear that just makes them so difficult to play against. And that's really what separates a lot of teams. Cale Fleury back to the AHL, nothing too exciting there. Or maybe he's going back to the NHL. Oh, no, he's going back to the NHL now. So nothing too surprising there, I don't believe. Also, if you are going to ask who you think is going to be traded, make sure to put it inside the chat. This question does not seem to be working. The question box, so make sure to let me know down in the chat who you think is going to get traded here. It should be working, I think, hopefully. But if you're new here, be sure to like, subscribe, all of that, and say hi in the chat. Let me know who you're cheering from, favorite team. Because obviously we are starting and slowly tuning up for the international competitions. Obviously a little bit more normal, back to what it should be, but at the end of the day, we're just trying to make some fun videos here and enjoy the day as much as we can. Hoping and begging that there's going to be a huge move here to really solidify some of the contending teams, which I think there are still quite a few teams that have the potential to really make their way here. But I guess, once again, time will tell, right? Still nothing too major. See what Darren Dreger has to say, because he normally pulls up something by now. Still nothing from Dreger, he's more of an interesting guy, because normally he pulls up some sort of dirt. The other guy, I guess, would be Pagnotta, because he normally doesn't report the finals. Like, he'll report it, but he's normally a little bit sort of digging deep and seeing who's kicking around. Alexander Barabanov's another one, I guess, who's on the move. He'll be moved by the 3 p.m. deadline. So I think when you're looking at a guy like Barabanov, he's another solid sort of option, right? You have the potential for a lot of different options, and 2.5 million cap hit. His contract, I believe, is done after this year, and he's another guy, right, where he carries a decent cap hit, He's going to be a rental option. He's got the modified no trade clause. So, when we look at it, right, he's a decent player. He has a little bit of defensive problems, but at the end of the day, he puts up the points when he needs to, when he needs to, but at the same time, it's one of those hard things to tell. Well, he was a juniors guy way back in the day. That was a long time ago. I mean, you gotta love your juniors guys. It's one of the best parts, I think, that I've found, is that every juniors guy eventually will turn into something at some point. Even if it's just like one of those fourth line guys, it's like, hey, I know who he is. He played in the juniors way back in the day. Now this deal, okay, we'll talk about this one for the Nashville Predators, because this deal is an interesting one. Jason Zucker to the Nashville Predators in exchange for the Dallas 6th round pick. No salary retained, which is one of the main reasons why there was no return on him here, especially to the caliber that probably Jason Zucker could have gotten. He has a really high contract hit. So in case of the Predators, right, they're contending for a spot. They're a team like Boston where, they will always be sort of in that realm for a playoff spot. It's just a matter if they can, sort of jump on top and get there. But Jason Zucker, good. He's a solid player. You're probably looking second, third line. But yet, once again, the Coyotes got a 2024 6th round pick for him. And I think, when you look at it, sure, you could probably get a little bit more than that. But with that being said, it's just another one of those things. See what good old Dubas has to say today. Kyle Dubas and Chris Drury. Looks like Riley Smith will also be on the move, which is very, very interesting. Because, that's another guy, right? Where, it's just, it could be, he could be another Pittsburgh Penguin that just can't seem to find his way. And I'll be curious to know if, that is the end goal here with, obviously, a player of his caliber that normally, would fetch a decent return. You're probably looking for Riley Smith like second-ish round pick, I'd say. I'm sure he's a third liner-ish on Pittsburgh, but in my opinion, he could fetch a serious return coming back. I guess it's just a matter of if they're going to or not, and which team would be willing to do it. I'd say the Rangers obviously were mentioned. They're a team that's just looking to build up whatever they can, right? They're not necessarily the best team in the league right now. In my opinion, you're probably looking at, the Vegas Golden Knights. Their team is just stacked. A lot of them are on the injured reserve, which allows them to do that. But at the same time, it's sort of in that realm, right? Where it very well could be, but it's just not for right now. Okay, so back to this. We're going to look at the lines for, I believe it was the Penguins, just to see who they have left to basically get rid of here. As we move it back over to here, we'll take a look at this. So as we see here, right, when we think about who's been traded, Gensel's gone. We have a couple injured reserve guys as well. Puljujarvi, once again, he's another guy that in theory could move. Obviously just got picked up by the Penguins pretty recently. He's another one that I'd say has the potential to move. Riley Smith has been rumored in trades. Crosby and Malkin are two guys that I know Penguins fans don't want to hear this, and I'm sorry to do this to you. But there is a very solid potential that what you're about to hear could be their names in trade talks. Crosby, Malkin, Letang, Erik Karlsson, I know his name always seems to be thrown out in trade talks. Marcus Pettersson, he's another guy, probably a younger guy, so not likely to be traded, but always the potential for it, especially at the deadline with Kyle Dubas, who likes to get aggressive, right? He's trying to rebuild this team as best he can. Be curious to see if there's any sort of actual movement. I'd like to say not. I don't think that they'd go as far as trading Crosby, Malkin, or Letang, maybe even Karlsson, but you have to take into account that, Crosby's starting to get on his last legs here. You have to give him a shot at the cup, in my opinion, because otherwise he's a winner, right? He wants to win. Would he leave Pittsburgh for it? That becomes the question, right? Whether or not he would, I'd say there's definitely a possibility for it. And of course, he gets the final say in all this. I think if Crosby is going to get the choice, you're looking at a contending team. You're looking at a team like Boston. You're looking at a team like Colorado, maybe a team even like the Leafs, right? Where, it's a team that he knows he has a shot at winning, but at the same time has players that he's played with. I'm looking at Marchand in specific, McKinnon as well. Even Edmonton has the potential. Obviously, they'd have to cough up quite a bit to get him, and whether or not they have that, I don't know. Boston, that deal would probably look like, obviously Boston doesn't have any first. They traded them for the most part away last year. But at the same time, obviously plenty of time for Dubas to make his move, and we'll see if there's any more action here. I don't believe there has been. We do have 14 new posts. Technical difficulties here. Yeah, join the crew. And that's to the online stream of that. And then the Tyler Toffoli deal with the Winnipeg Jets. And let's pull up the Jets here, because this deal is going to significantly boost their top 6, in my opinion. Let's see if they got it updated today. So back to sort of what Toffoli is going to provide for the Winnipeg Jets. And I think you're looking right here. Namestnikov is going to be able to move down in the lineup sort of towards that Iafallo spot. You can argue that probably they'll keep Iafallo, Monahan, Ehlers together. They've been playing decently well as of late. But Kyle Connor, Scheifele, and I could see Toffoli slotting in there. I mean, there's also the shot at that third line here with Mason Appleton plays alongside Nino Niederreiter and Adam Lowry. But I do think that Toffoli's sort of the way he plays fits a lot better with Scheifele and Connor. He has the finish, he has the passing ability to play alongside Kyle Connor, who plays as a finisher. Scheifele plays basically both sides of the ice. I think he fit quite nicely right in here. So we'll see, if obviously they have anything else. This defense pairing is decent right now. They might make one final move to shore up their bottom 6. But, of course, time will tell on that one. We'll see if there's any more action here. I do not believe that there has been too many excited things. Klim Kostin for Radim Simek. He's another juniors guy at one point. So the Sharks sort of just the Red Wings rather trading away Klim Kostin, who isn't really too much of an important asset. I don't want to say. But with that being said, obviously both players looking for a change of scenery. So we'll see on that account if there's anything else to come from that. Then, of course, Tyler Toffoli, the big news out of Winnipeg. Good old Patrick Waugh behind the bench. But, I mean, the truth is, right, when we look at the playoffs were to end today, the matchups would be Tampa against Florida, Tampa, Florida, Detroit, and the Rangers. I think you can probably safely assume, just the way Tampa's been playing so far this year, that, it'd be a pretty good Florida routing, as well as the Rangers against the Red Wings. It's hard to think that the Red Wings are going to make too many big moves, as quite literally, I believe that the Red Wings just made a move, unless that's the same move. Yeah, it's the same move here. Nothing too crazy there. That's probably a bottom pairing guy at a Radim Simek, and the Klim Kostin is basically there to try and find his groove again. He sort of lost it out in Detroit, so we'll see if he can bounce back. He was a solid player, just not one of those guys that really was a standalone kind of guy. But with that being said, obviously lots of time here still to go for all these teams. So if you do have a favorite team that you want to hear about, be sure to drop it in the chat. Let me know who your team is, who you want to see get moved, who you don't want to see get moved if you're obviously a Penguins fan, if you don't want to see Crosby go. But yeah, just sort of let me know what you think, who obviously you're cheering for, and all of that. But with that being said, obviously lots of time still to go here we're still waiting on more big trades. So far today, there's been 8 trades that have been officially announced, and I think there still will be more of them. So obviously the closer we get to the deadline, the more trades. Another big name here is Jacob Chychrun. And I think Chychrun is another guy who definitely has the potential to be moved. Will he be moved? You know, it's another one of those. He was just traded at the last deadline or the one before that. He's a relatively new guy to his team. We'll see if Chychrun is the next guy to go here. Obviously, he is a good player. We'll see if Boston's another team, obviously, who's looking for sort of that higher end help on the back end, whether they decide, you know, that's another guy that could be moved. Will he be moved? Once again, hard to say, right? But there is always the potential for a guy of his caliber to be moved for a pretty good cost, especially when, you know, his assets aren't really being used. And I think that's probably a pretty important thing to keep in mind here for whatever team picks him up, because at the end of the day, he isn't really being used to his fullest capacity. But with that being said, lots of time left still in this deadline to go. And I am looking forward to seeing what Boston's up to, because I've been reading some rumors that they are going to do something wild, to quote the article. Whether that means a full trade of their team. Obviously, Allmark's a guy that's been on the chopping block, because you're sort of looking at four names for the Bruins, right? It's Allmark, it's DeBrusk, it's Grzelcyk, and it's Forbort. The two defensemen are looking to move. They've just been battering rams for Bruins fans for as long as they've been on the team. But we'll see if they get moved. And then DeBrusk is another guy. He's obviously, once again, coming to his last year of his contract. Whether he gets moved, it's hard to tell. Allmark's sort of the last guy here. His name's always been on the chopping block. It's hard to imagine a world where he gets moved, because Allmark is, you know, he's the face of the goalie hug. He's adored by fans. He's a solid goaltender. And really, the teams that are looking for him have traded away their assets, right? That's the Devils, who are now looking, at least in my opinion, to go back into a rebuild. There's also Calgary seems to be holding on to Jacob Markstrom. And the teams that are really looking for a goalie, you know, that's the Leafs. And the Leafs aren't likely going to trade with the Bruins. Maybe they will. Who knows? Obviously, lots of time. But it's really hard to imagine that a solid team will have the potential to move on and pick up a guy like Allmark who for his prime, right? Because we're in that sort of area where he's starting to head towards the decline. So it's not necessarily a long-term kind of play, but it's definitely a potential move. But with that being said, if you are new here, be sure to like, subscribe, all of that. Say hi in the chat. Let me know who your favorite team is, and let's talk about them, because obviously the trades are slowly but surely starting to move on in, and we'll see if there's any sort of new additions, any sort of new, anything new that might be going on here. We're just sort of waiting for the next big name to fall. I don't see too many names falling off in the next couple minutes. Likely more so towards the end of the day. We're at 1:10 right now, so still an hour 50 to go with plenty of action. So it will be interesting. And then also, we'll take a look at the standings, because obviously there's not too much happening right now. So we'll take a couple minutes here to take a look at the standings. We'll go here and there, which I believe is now working. Awesome. So we'll take a look here with the Boston Bruins and the Maple Leafs, right? We've seen this game happen twice now. Twice in a week. It was an absolute treat to watch. Obviously, the Monday and the Thursday games. So Monday was in Toronto, Thursday was in Boston, and both games absolutely dominated by the Bruins. And one of the big things that we sort of saw was, you know, they're a team. Both those teams are extremely, extremely chippy. And when you have two chippy teams, you're going to play good hockey, and it's going to end in a good result. So with that being said, Boston, good team. Leafs, good team. Florida is another team that, could drop down here. I think we look at a team like the Florida Panthers, where they've made a couple deadline acquisitions, albeit not at the deadline, as many of these trades actually are. The Florida Panthers are a really, really solid team, all in all, right? They play good hockey and they know what they're doing. Boston's very similar. I just say Florida plays a similar style to Boston. The difference between Florida and Boston is Florida has the talent to back it up. No offense to the Bruins. Look, I'm a Bruins fan. I admit this. Boston doesn't have the talent that they used to, but where they make their money is in their team commitment, and they buy into their structure better than any other team. And that's how they're still consistent after losing their entire team the last year. And that's the difference between the Leafs and the Bruins, is that the Leafs have all the skill in the world, but there's no buy-in, right? It's all about me. I want to score 60, 70 goals, whatever Matthews is at now, right? It's that next accomplishment for me, where Boston is, let's make the next accomplishment for us. And that's one of my opinion, at least the biggest difference between Boston and Toronto. And you see that a lot in what goes on, right? It's just the whole Pacioretty to New York is a real possibility. So I don't know if that's I'm not too sure if that's a real thing or if that's sort of just another bluff. But it is a real possibility, apparently. So Hampus Lindholm is likely going to return for Boston. He's been out quite for the last couple games. So that'll be a good boost for the Bruins lineup as well. And then the Rangers, we'll take a look at the Metro now. Obviously, there's a lot of teams here that have a shot. And I mean, the Rangers and the Hurricanes always battle it out. The Flyers, Tortorella has looked really good as the coach this year. They've had their fair share of struggles. Just they've been able to block it out, though, find their way. And playing some decent hockey, too, I might add on top of that. And then, obviously, the Islanders are down here. Flyers as well. And they'll probably battle it out towards the end. The Devils are a team that was sort of on that cusp. We were really waiting to see, if those Devils were which way the Devils were leaning. Same thing with the Penguins, see which way they were leaning. Same thing with the Capitals, see which way they were leaning. And it appears that the Capitals, as of this moment, have just decided, you know what? We're just going to sit there, accept fate. Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. Devils got, they traded their guys. They've more or less given up. The Penguins as well, looking like they're going to give up on this one as well. Yeah, and then obviously the Blue Jackets are looking to tank. So we'll see what's going on there. The Penguins, I mean, we have to remember, right? They've still got their old core with Malkin, Crosby, Letang. Whether or not they like to return, who knows? The Red Wings are a team this year that's really come on strong. But once again, sort of on that cusp. Are they contenders? Are they rebuilders? Are they just sort of in the middle? And in my opinion, they're, once again, it's just sort of in the middle. I'd love to see what goes on there with the Red Wings, to see if, they make another big move to go out and acquire a guy. Same thing with Tampa. Tampa made their move. They've had a rough start to the year. So we'll see if they can make their way back. Obviously, they traded a lot of their draft capital a couple of years ago in an attempt to, win another cup. And unfortunately for them, they didn't. And, of course, this is the result, right? You have no one to replace your older guys. Your older guys eventually break down, and this is the result. 72 points out of 64 games, where, a couple years ago they were just absolutely dominant. So, that being said, just make sure there's nothing new here. Nope, still nothing. So, we'll take a look now at the West, and this is one that, sort of one of those up-in-the-air centrals. Winnipeg has got stronger. Colorado has got stronger. Dallas, another team that's sort of just sitting there right now, probably poised to make a pretty big strike coming up. The Pacific, you have the aggressive Vancouver Canucks, who are looking to make a massive deal to go out and get Gensel, trading away the guy they just got with Elias Lindholm. Obviously, they're going to hold on to him now, I assume, unless some crazy stuff happens in the next couple hours. He's another guy that, Vancouver is a team that Crosby might go to. It's whether or not that actually will come to fruition, who knows. But, of course, the thing with a team like Pittsburgh is that they have that legacy with Crosby, Would Crosby want to leave there? No, probably not. No move clause makes it a lot harder to do so. And then, of course, Edmonton, LA, Nashville, Vegas. I mean, all these teams are sort of up in the air. Vegas is a team that, had a rough sort of start to the year, sort of came back on, and is now looking a lot better. And I want to talk about now, I'm sort of just looking at the overtime numbers. 15 overtime losses for the Bruins. It's been a rough go for them. They had a 1 week, we made a video on it where they lost like 3 or 4 overtime games in a row. It's just one of those things. Boston could not figure out how to make it all the way. And then, of course, I'll finish it off here with the selling for Celebrini this year, with Chicago and San Jose seeming to be in the bottom running for that, as well as Columbus is sort of around there too. But, I mean, it seems pretty clear-cut that between San Jose and Chicago, those are going to be your two teams that are really fighting for it. And I'll show you here, right? You have two 37-point teams, a 49 and a 54. So from what it looks like, San Jose is looking just to tank. Same thing with Chicago. Obviously looking to improve Bedard. You could put Celebrini and Bedard together. There's a World Junior domination right there. Would not be a sight I'd be opposed to say the least. See if there's any more trades from here. Joey Votto, obviously, if we have any baseball fans in here, has agreed to a non-roster invite with the Blue Jays. He is back. Look at that. Good for him. And good for the Jays for picking him up. It's still a pretty big pickup. He's pretty solid of a player. And there does not seem to be any more trades as of this moment, nor speculation. Is Frank Vetrano on the move? I don't believe so. It looks like it's a lot of just speculation as of this current moment. So if you're new here, be sure to like, subscribe, and also let me know down below who your favorite team is in the chat, and we'll take a little analysis of your team if you wish, because obviously we're just trying to kill time here until something sort of surprising happens. It's that's the joy of these kind of days, is that there's not a lot until there is a lot, and we just sort of have to wait it out until there is. We are approaching now the hour mark of our stream. We did start a little bit later than we were supposed to. A little bit of technical difficulties, but we are here now nonetheless. So be sure to drop in the chat who you are cheering for, who your favorite team is, as well as, what's your favorite food. Let's go with that one right now. But nonetheless, obviously, solid teams still have to make some big moves. Boston, I'm looking at, are they going to make one final move? They already made their move for Patrick Maroon. Are they going to make another one? Maybe. Is it a good idea for them to make a move? Maybe. But obviously, they have a structure in place. It looks good. If I was them, probably not going to make a move. I'd just be preaching patience. They are a team that doesn't need to do too much with it, but they do have a lot of players on their back end that could use some shoring up. So obviously lots of time still for that to come to fruition, but nonetheless, we'll see. Obviously lots of time left in this trade deadline. We have about an hour 40 left, so plenty of time, lots of trades still to be announced, still to come. And it's going to be a pretty good hour and a back, I think. Pittsburgh. Okay, so never mind. Just another one. Panos Gushes hesitancy to move Jacob Markstrom. So once again, nothing too new on that account. It can be pretty well assumed that Markstrom's name is going to be on the chopping block until the deadline. Whether or not he gets moved is still up in the air. And then further, it always will come down to what's going on with some of these guys. Hampus Lindholm returning to the Bruins. We sort of already talked about that. So nothing too new yet, right? We have still sort of the same old trades. Radim Simek still traded. That has not changed either. So with that being said, we're going to pull up the old cap friendly here just to make sure we haven't missed any big moves. So we're going to go here with that, and that will pull up this. So obviously the Chad Ruhwedel deal out of Pittsburgh, and I think we can probably sort this here. There we go. So we can sort this here by teams. We'll go down to the Pittsburgh Penguins, and we will look at obviously what's going on here with the Pittsburgh Penguins, because they're a team that was sort of up in the air for what they were going to do. Were they going to sell out or were they going to go for it? They chose sold out. We see, let's count the moves. Ruhwedel, Gensel, Nylander was another deal they got rid of. And there was one more that got announced, but I don't believe it's up quite yet. But obviously, lots of action still to happen today. The Kuznetsov deal was another one I was pretty impressed with. That was to Carolina. We'll just sort that deal. And this deal, in my opinion, was just one of those sneaky moves by a team like the Carolina Hurricanes, where they could get a guy for relatively cheap on a 50% deal, and that third-round pick for nothing is absolutely huge. Washington was trying to shed cap by the waivers move, and yet they found a way to still retain some salaries. So that's why the value is high on Kuznetsov. Yes, he was an AHL player, but the reason was they were trying to lose him for the cap. Nonetheless, that's where we are at now. Carolina also obviously got Jake Gensel. A lot of solid options all around for them as well. They played broker on a deal too for the Lyubushkin deal, which I do believe that 6th-round pick turned into, Cade Weber was the other one, which is sort of an interesting move for them. I mean, they have, or I guess not. The Cade Weber deal was a part of that trade, but sort of just interesting to see how they go about doing that. That's a 26, that's a 24. These numbers are very small, but nonetheless, right? That's the goal of it. Create some room. But with that being said, not too much left to go here. We just gotta wait for another big trade to be announced. So we will pull it back. We're going to go on a quick break here just to head to the intermission. So we will be back in a jiffy. So I will see you all very shortly. Alrighty. Welcome back to the stream. We have now put up a poll, so be sure to vote on it. How many trades do you think will be made in the upcoming, or on today? This is obviously for just today. I think we're at about 10 now, so that first option likely won't happen. We had thrown it up before, obviously some difficulties with the stream, so we had to revert to a new stream. This is what we got right now. So with that being said, be sure to vote in the poll below. And as we still wait here, there has been no action as of yet into any future moves. We'll see if any big names are still to go. And this is an interesting one from Dave Pagnota as we pull it up here. And we'll see here, this one right here. Max Pacioretty's been presented with an opportunity to waive his non-move clause for a contender. I'm told no decision yet as of this time. New York's still in the mix. Florida was in play. Still potentially Boston as well, I'd say, on top of that. So, interesting move from him. Obviously, he's a guy that isn't going to get too much of an opportunity where he's at to, sort of have that shot at a cup. So, we'll see if he chooses to do so there. But nonetheless, obviously lots of time still to go here. Whether or not there's going to be a huge move, we'll see. There's still lots of time, lots of players to be named, whether or not that is still the case. It's an hour and a half to go. We'll see who's next up on the list here. Obviously, could be anybody. We saw a couple big names go earlier. Another guy I'm still waiting for to see is if Jacob Markstrom is on the move or not, as well as the other goaltender I'm looking at is Linus Ullmark from the Boston Bruins. Those are two guys that definitely have the potential of getting traded. Like I said, there's a couple teams in the market. The Devils were. I don't believe they're in the market anymore, just based on what was happening before. So we'll see on that account whether or not there is a potential market for him. And then also, there's the Maple Leafs who likely wouldn't trade with Calgary because of Treliving. We think back to that whole ordeal. Treliving was a big issue for them. Obviously, coming from Calgary, are they going to trade with his old team? Probably not. Wasn't exactly the most liked out there. But there is still the potential for that move because their alternative really is the Boston Bruins. And do the Leafs really want to try and trade with the Bruins, who are going to take advantage of them? Absolutely. If you're going to trade with a team like the Bruins, they're going to look for a high-end player for all marks, say, maybe like a Tavares, or albeit his high contract, probably about 50%. It's either a Tavares, or it's maybe a Marner, or Matthews, or someone like that. Obviously, Matthews wouldn't fetch it, and they would definitely not accept that. But it does have to be taken into account that is still a possibility here. And still, with quite a bit of time left. I mean, not too much has been moving as of late. See if there's any sort of interesting moves. We'll talk about the Pat Maroon deal, might as well, under Jack Edwards. So, obviously, if you remember back to a couple of years ago, I guess it might have been, with the whole Jack Edwards, Pat Maroon, basically called him fat, more or less. So we'll see what the new thing is between Jack Edwards and Pat Maroon. Obviously, apologized since then, but it is going to make for an interesting dynamic between Jack Edwards and Pat Maroon. And we'll see if there's any more information on the Calgary goaltending situation. It does not appear so. I get the sense, and just a sort of what's been going on lately, they're in a spot where there is still the potential for them to, move close to a playoff spot. They're on the brink, right? They're right here, 67 points, 1 game in hand. So really, it's 4 points if they win out. So we'll see if there's any sort of interesting dynamics there. Obviously, still lots of time to go in this day of deadlines. Yeah, still nothing new here. Carolina is just looking through those trades just to make sure they hadn't made anything else. Jason Zucker, 6th round pick. We sort of talked about that. The big reason why it's only a 6th round pick for a guy like Jason Zucker is the high cap hit. And Arizona got out of having to worry about the cap, so basically that's the end result, right? It's a $5.3 million contract for the 6th round pick, and you get a pretty solid player in Jason Zucker. So good on the Predators for picking that one up. Definitely a good move on there. But other than that, not too much going on as of right now. We'll see. We'll go back here just to see if there's anything more pressing. So this is the Coyotes picks, and I hope you can see that. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to. Right? Look at all the 2nd round picks that they have here. 3 and 24, 3 and 24, 4 and 25, and 3 and 26 in 2nd round. 3 24 picks. 2 25 thirds. Just a lot of craziness for the Arizona Coyotes to draft. But the truth is, when you think about it, they're right on the edge, right, of moving back to Quebec. The Quebecois might be taking care of them very shortly. So you got to be careful if you're the Arizona Coyotes not to go too pick heavy. But at the same time, that's 10 second round picks coming up in the next 3 drafts. Like that is an absurd number. 3.3 draft or second round picks per draft, if you're looking at it that way. That is an absurd number of second round picks for the Coyotes to have. But nonetheless, they aren't first round picks. So we'll see if they decide to trade up at a draft. That's obviously a potential. I mean, a lot of these teams are starting to get to that point now where this draft class isn't very necessarily the best draft class we've seen from years past. You have your high-end guys. You got a guy like a Celebrini. But other than that, it sort of just isn't quite what they used to be, right? Where you think back to even last year where you had that Bedard sort of combo, and then it kind of fell off there. That's been sort of the story of the last couple years. So it's just interesting because at the end of the day, it's just hard for all these teams to get the best draft picks when there isn't really that deep of a pick pool. And obviously there's always going to be guys that are surprise turnouts. You look back on every draft from here on out. I mean, it's I think you can actually pull that up here. Trades, signings, maybe not. But I mean, like right here. So you think back to a couple years ago where, Slavkovsky draft, all these guys are now playing pretty high minutes. And there's been another trade or close to a trade, so I'll pull that up right now. Heading over back to Twitter or X or whatever we're calling this thing now. I'm still going to call it Twitter for the rest of my life. Do I not have Friedman on this? Elliot Friedman. Yes, I do. So, traction on Jake Allen to New Jersey. So, once again, that's another goalie, right? The question became, how are they going to fix it? Jake Allen is the guy, apparently, for the Devils, which means, that's another yet another goalie I might add off the board here. So, we'll see if there's going to be any more moves. And, I mean, the goalie situation, the Devils, they traded away to Foley. Looks like they're headed towards a rebuild, so I don't expect that. The return on Jake Allen to be too high. You're probably looking at like a 4th round pick, 5th round pick, I'd say. I'd be surprised to see it much higher than that. But obviously, there is definitely the potential for something to happen. This is the Zucker deal. I've already talked about that one. Jake Allen. So I think the Jake Allen deal for the Devils is actually a pretty good one. You're going to get a cheap kind of guy. He's not going to be the sort of your high-end, high-expensive guy. But, you're looking at it. There's a few teams left with goalie problems. You're looking at the Leafs. Whether or not they do something, who knows? Because the truth is, if you're looking at like a Leaf deal for Markstrom, you're probably looking at a return of... it's hard to say, but I'd say you're at least probably looking at a pretty high prospect, if not a couple first-round picks. And Markstrom is a goalie that, I don't know if he'd be content with going, but I guess I never actually did look at the trade between the Bruins and the Wild. So the Pat Maroon for Luke Toporowski and the 2026 6th-round pick does not play in a playoff game. Okay, so it's basically if the Bruins make the playoffs and Maroon plays in it, then they don't have to trade the pick. But I do expect Pat Maroon to play. He's a really solid player. Not so much in his skill, but just sort of that all-around game where he's going to fight. He's going to, get in there and be gritty. So we'll see if there's anything new there. And once again, this is the same one. Pat Maroon. And you're getting... Oh, he's off to LTIR, I guess, as well. So I guess he might have been injured, which is an interesting... A nice way to sort of circumvent the cap, as Boston so often does. But just sort of, we've seen it, right? You saw it with Vegas, all the moves they've been making. That's just part of the game now, right? It's the whole goal of it is to make as many big moves as possible in as little time. And when we look at it, right? So, even last night's games, right? You sort of see it with the team. This was a routing, right? The 6-0 Capital victory over the Penguins, that hurts the pride a little bit. So when I was watching that, I was thinking, are the Capitals gonna, or are the Penguins rather going to make any big moves tomorrow after they just got shellacked by their rivals? I guess they were, because pretty much right after the game, big move with Gensel. And a couple other big moves that are slowly coming. Hey man, hope how are you doing? Been a while. Hope all is well, Steven. How are you doing? But yeah, so obviously lots of time here. So pending the trade call, Montreal sends Jake Allen to New Jersey. That's a great move by New Jersey. I mean, you're gonna get a cheaper option, and the poor guy. I mean. At the end of the day, right? It's a fix. It's not awesome per se, but it's something. And I think at the end of the day, that's what you need for New Jersey. You don't need someone who's going to be your pride and joy, but you need someone that's going to be there, who's going to play some good hockey. And I think Jake Allen is the perfect fix for him. Even though a lot of people on Twitter do not seem to believe that, which is interesting to me, but hey, you gotta appreciate a little bit different in opinions, right? Trade call to come. So that's been confirmed now. So Jake Allen is hasn't been confirmed, I guess, quite yet, but Jake Allen is heading to the New Jersey Devils, and that's a great move for the Devils. The Habs also, I'd be curious to see what the return is on this, because they're trading away one of their goalies. Obviously, they still have Montembeault. That was intentional for the record. Frank Saravalli has reported it. What does the back line look like? Yeah, it's the. I don't know if you might not be able to see it. I'll pull it up in just a second for you. Sorry, it just got reported that all the other guys have now. Everyone else is now reporting it. Habs get a conditional 3rd-round pick. Wow, so a little bit of an overpayment on that one, depending on games played for Jake Allen in New Jersey. Wow. I'm shocked by that. Oh, Crosby seems to be trending. Conditional 3rd. I am shocked by that. That's crazy. Wow. That is wow. That's a little bit of an overpayment in my books. I thought that was going to be a lot cheaper. I mean, considering, I think the Toffoli deal was a 3rd-round pick, was it not? All right. Yeah. No, I'll get you in just 1 second. I'll turn it back. I'm just curious to know. Actually, I want the Toffoli deal because I'm pretty sure that's what they got the 3rd-round pick. Okay, so not in here. Tyler Toffoli, maybe it's in here. Yeah, so a third round pick that could become a second. So I would not be surprised to see that exact deal right here be the picks that they used to go out and get Jake Allen. Just make sure Allen will go first. Third games can make it a second. To me, that surprises me. I don't really agree with that. Okay, so we'll head back here. So we need to go to that one, and so this should now be working. So Steven, I don't know if you can see it. It doesn't really come out, but it is really cool. Like it's got all the old stuff in the back, which is pretty neat. Yeah, just one of the sort of the cooler sort of jerseys designs that they made. Obviously with like the Centennial stuff going on. So it was a really neat sort of game. Oh, Denis Gurianov is going to, I believe, Philly. Let me flip the screen here. So Denis Gurianov is becoming Denis Gurianov is going to become a Philadelphia Flyer by the looks of it, which I actually really like for the Flyers. Obviously, they're a team that's sort of on that cusp, right? That's awesome. Would have to make... The nameplate is Marchand, but I got it. So what ended up happening was we got the jersey without the name, and then we just got someone local to do to put on the nameplate. So it's pretty sick. It's a really nice jersey. So yeah, really nice jersey overall. But nonetheless here. Oops, a little too late. Haha, you're awesome as always. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And good to see you out again. It's been a while. I guess the last one was probably the those streams. Oh, and I see now why the deal was what it was. So the main reason why, and this is not coming up here for some reason. Here we go. So because the Habs are basically retaining 50% on Jake Allen, that's why it's the extra. That's why it's the extra picks. So that actually does end up making some sense. It's also Montreal's last salary retention spot. So we can see here, they've done too many of those now, so they're now capped, so they won't make any more of those deals. Be curious to see, what else, if anything, that they do. And also the Gurianov deal, I do believe, is going to be announced shortly. We'll see here. Just double checking to see if they snuck one through there. Wade Allison in exchange for Denis Gurianov, and I like about Gurianov, right? So I think when we look at it for the Flyers, that's really going to help their, sort of their top six. And I think Gurianov's one of those guys that's flown under the radar a little bit. Wade Allison isn't too bad, but I like Gurianov better in this deal, in my opinion. It was fun, the reaction videos was here last live. Fun, especially when your team won it all. Yeah. Hopefully this next coming year. I guess time will tell, right? So we will see what is going on. Denis Gurianov. So it appears, at least for now, that was a 1-to-1 trade between Denis Gurianov and Wade Allison. So I mean, this is a good move, and I do like it for both teams actually. As a matter of fact, I like the Flyers a little bit better. I'd say probably a little bit slightly, maybe like a B+ and a B for the B+ for the Flyers, B for the Preds. Just sort of an all-around good team and good deal, and some good players moving as well. So, both these teams, when we look at the standings, are right on that cusp, right there. Because Nashville is down here, right? They're sort of holding on to that top wild card spot, but also you have the Flames coming in underneath them versus the Flyers, who are holding on to this spot here in the Metro. But at the same time, right, they're equal games with the Islanders, so in theory they would be knocked out of that top spot as well. So just sort of interesting, right? It's an interesting sort of dynamic here between right? Where the teams are in the standings, as well as, you know, what trades they're going to be making. So obviously, we'll see if there's any more deals here. I don't believe there's going to be too many. Just double check that. But nonetheless here, it's another, let's say, I fell over earlier and my pizza turned into lasagna. Oh well, such a great pizza too. That's funny. That is funny. Oops. Still getting adjusted to this new setup, so do bear with me. We go there and we go there to get right back to here, and we welcome everybody back in. If you are new here, be sure to like, subscribe, as well as click in the poll how many trades you think will be made today. My prediction is 24. I have that number in my head for some reason. Whether or not it's true, who knows? But I do have a hunch that is going to be the case. So time will tell. As we do wait for some more trades to come through here. Not too much, you know, it's happened today. A lot of it's come in the last couple days. I mean, it tends to happen with these trade deadlines where teams want to get, it was great, I loved it. It's just sort of one of those things, right, where it's you slowly but surely make your way through. And nonetheless, I am curious to know, however, that if there's going to be any other, so sad, but want to be honest and love to bring some humor into it. Yeah, well, exactly. So Jake Allen. Actually, this meme here is actually quite evident of what it should be. How did Jake Allen bring back a third, possibly a second? But Tyler Toffoli bringing so little to New Jersey. It is sad, right? But it's like that is how it is, right? Like Jake Allen brings back a third and a second, sure, 50% retained, whatever. But Tyler Toffoli, I believe, also might have been at 50% retained. Like it's just sort of a ridiculous thing. But nonetheless, it is what it is. And we'll hopefully be taking a look at another trade coming fairly soon. Eric Johnson to Philadelphia. That's actually a good one for the Flyers as well. So we'll see if that's what the return is there. I think there is a decent contract to go with that. See if anyone's got where's the return? No. Canucks news. Nope. So we're still waiting here, right? It could be any sorts of things. There is a little bit of a contract problem there, but we'll see if Philadelphia, obviously when you're looking at a guy like who's going to Philadelphia, you got to be able to take a Tortorella. And I think Eric Johnson's probably going to be able to live up to that. We'll see. Time will obviously tell. But he is one of those guys that, you know, he's found his way around the league, and we'll see if that is going to help him at all. I believe we are, an hour 10 away from the deadline. So we will slowly but surely see if... I once went to a hockey game here in Kansas City. If you heard of Mavericks and tripped down the stairs and I spilled like chili gel. Oh, that one just hurts. That's like a dagger to the heart. It's a tough break. So Friedman reported that Eric Johnson was to Philadelphia, and he hasn't done anything since. I want an NHL team here. Well, you know, I mean, the NHL is looking to expand its lineup, so it's probably not too far off. If your Chiefs can keep it going, you're probably looking pretty good. Because they've certainly found... So Anaheim and Washington have also used all 3 final retention spots, which is important. Kuzi is already at practice. Look at that. It's almost like he knew what was coming. I guess Hershey is pretty close to there too, but still kind of interesting in that sense as well. But simulates the draft lottery as well. Interesting. But like, when we think about it, right? I mean, just looking at these teams, it's how do you get down or up into the playoffs or down into that perfect draft spot to get selling for Celebrini, right? That's that's the goal of the trade deadline, is to see how high up you can get. Chicago Blackhawks and San Jose Sharks both tied in last place as of right now. I will be curious at least to know, if they make any other moves. San Jose's made a move, but it's really not anything too special. It's just sort of selling away their guys. But nonetheless, kind of an interesting move there. And we'll see. Obviously, lots of time left. We still got about an hour-ish to go. Slowly moving down, and we're just waiting for one more sort of big deal. Erik Johnson is to Philadelphia. Has nothing else has came out about that quite yet. So time will tell there. All right, so we might as well look at this while we're waiting for the next big trade, with what's going to go on here with the draft lottery. So somehow Senators got dropped down. I don't think that's probably going to be the case. I think it'll probably be Chicago or San Jose, because normally it is rigged. Let's be honest here. It's just what it is. It is always going to be rigged. But even here, right, you have my opinion. I really like Consta Hellenius. I think he'll go a little bit earlier. Have you been? Oh, that. Well, I apologize for assuming that. That's a tough one. I have been to a Bruins game. I've been lucky enough to go. And then obviously love Shunov. He's one that you don't really see too much of. He's playing out in Belarus, obviously with all the stuff going on out there. Raised in Miami, I gotcha. And Yzerman's another good one. I liked him. He's looked pretty good. And then obviously the Iginla family runs deep, so no salary retention. So there's another trade somewhere. Let's see if it's been updated quite yet. Show 7. So 4th round pick for Erik Johnson with no salary retention, which is kind of surprising. But still, it's once again another good move for the Philadelphia Flyers to pick up. Once again, he's a solid defenseman, right? So it is definitely a decent trade. So I do like the move for the Flyers here. The Sabres, once again, you're getting a 4th round pick. I like it when we look back to the standings. They're not necessarily contending here, 63 points. In order to make that wild card, you got to be a lot closer than that, right? You're at 63 points, you got to get up to about 72. So that's about a 9-point gap. Are you going to do that? Probably not. Look at the team Buffalo has. Is this their year? I don't think so. And that's the reason for the deal, right? That's what you want to look for out of these deals. Why are they doing it? They don't think they're going to win. Why are they doing it? Because they can get some value out of them. And why are they doing it? Because it was the right fit for the Flyers, who are going to be paying for, once again, a solid defenseman. Erik Johnson is no one to be he's not going to be bad for you, right? He's going to be a solid player. Thanks for chatting on here. It means a lot to say hi and take time. Well, thanks for coming out. As always, it's good to see you again, and hope to see you again soon if you're leaving. Otherwise, hope you are enjoying the stream, and yeah. And once again, this is the fallout of the Pittsburgh situation, right? Because now you got 2 guys that are unhappy. You got Rust, you got Crosby, and then, of course, you have the rest of the team, right? With you have Malkin, Letang, all these guys now who are phasing out and are likely going to try and want to get a win at some point. But yeah, so with that being said, definitely an interesting kind of day for the team. If you are new here, be sure to like, subscribe, all of that. And as we sort of move along here, it's going to be an interesting sort of rest of the day here, because we're posing in on now about an hour left. And normally in this last hour, it's teams making their final moves. One of the teams I'm really looking at is the Boston Bruins. They've had a lot of rumors floating around them, as well as the Vancouver Canucks. I think the Canucks have sort of more or less given up on a lot of those rumors. But nonetheless, we'll see here if there's anything new. As quite literally, as soon as I say that, Kevin... Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for tuning in. Kevin Weeks just reported something on the Bruins. I don't know what it is. I guess we will see here. But pretty much as soon as I said Boston, sure enough, something got tweeted. I don't know where it is. Does not appear to be up quite yet, which is unfortunate. But I guess we'll see. Here we go. This Pat Maroon has moved to Boston. So I guess nothing too new there, but I do expect Boston to make maybe one more move just to shore up that back end. Because right now, when you look at Grzelcyk, you look at Grzelcyk, you look at Forbort. Those two guys have looked a little bit like pylons as of late. A lot of sort of costly turnovers, and we've seen that in the playoffs too, right? When you get into that when you need to be tough, they just don't seem to have that. Forbort's a little bit better with the toughness, especially in the playoffs. Grzelcyk last year, I'm pretty sure, was a healthy scratch most of the games, just because that's what happens to him, right? He gets, as a smaller player, he sees contact and he's afraid of it. Which brings back to the whole Torrey Krug incident, right? Where, you think about it. The whole point of Krug leaving was that Grzelcyk was going to take his spot, and he really didn't do that. McAvoy was the one who took over a lot of what Krug did. Grzelcyk was supposed to be that sort of offensive smallish forward, or smallish defense rather, and unfortunately, it's just it is what it is. 40 games played is the trigger. I don't know what it was the trigger for. It'll show up here in a second. There we go. The conditional third-round pick. 40 games played is the trigger for Jake Allen in New Jersey. So that's an interesting sort of move. We'll see if that ends up happening. Never hear Crosby. Yeah, I'd be curious to see what goes on with the if anything new happens here with the Bruins. I think the Bruins are a team that are probably going to be looking for one more option, maybe, just sort of to shore up that back end. So we'll see if there's anything new here. Just sort of waiting along. So the condition looks like it was 40 games between this season and next. For Jake Allen for it to become a second-round pick, which honestly is definitely attainable. I don't know if that's just regular season games or if that counts for the playoffs too. I'd assume it would, which might honestly be the defining factor. Because at the end of the day, right, if you're using them, you're going to use them. So we got here, that's the condition, right? Yep, Mikey Anderson and Andre Kempe. Nothing. Oh, so Andrew Peak to Boston. Let's just double check to make sure we have the right guy. Good old Cap Friendly, never hurt anybody. Andrew Peak. So this is another sort of interesting move. He's a right defenseman. I think he's a stand-up guy, isn't he? Yeah. So 6'3", 194. So he's sort of a bigger guy to throw around the body, and that's sort of what I kind of figured Boston would be looking for. They've been struggling all year with who's going to replace that little right side problem. Is it going to be Grzelcyk? Is it going to be Forbort? Is it going to be Zboril? Is it going to be whoever it might be? But it does appear that they went out and got their guy. 3 years left, 2.7. Now what really is I'm curious about is how is Boston going to maneuver this cap? There's a former second-round pick back in 2016. So we'll see here what's going to happen next with the Boston Bruins. I think there's definitely at least one more move, because right now Boston is very, very tight on cap, which means, this guy's 2.75, which likely means it's a guy like Grzelcyk, could be a guy like Forbort. Both those guys are around $3 million in their cap. Ullmark's another one. He's $5 million. So I'll be curious to see what the next sort of move is, whether or not, Peak is just the start of it. And we'll see here. I just want to check to see if they've announced what the return was for him. So 1 hour to go. So 1 hour left in the period left to play. So Zboril, ironically enough, is going for Andrew Peak. So, this is one of those tough ones, and I think there is definitely still one move to go. Zboril has always been sort of expected to do a lot of things. I'm a little disappointed to see him go, but I do think Andrew Peak is definitely worth the cost. He struggled with injuries, Zboril has, for most of the year. So with that being said, want to say it's a tough deal, but at the end of the day, I don't mind the deal at all. I think it's actually a decent deal for Boston. And for Columbus as well, right? Because Columbus is getting a younger player. I guess they're by 1 year, but at the end of the day, right? That's what they. Or I guess Zaboril's actually a year older than Peak. But with that being said, Zaboril has shown potential at times, so it's a little bit more risky. But the upside for Zaboril is a lot higher. Whereas Peak, you know what you're getting. He's a massive defenseman. That's what Boston does. They get big, strong defensemen, and they know what they're doing. So with that being said, the one thing I will suggest at this point, because they finally got their right defenseman. That was one of their biggest problems, is that they didn't really have a right defenseman. But now when we look at it, it's going to give you a test out the size of your cam icon and make it half and half on the screen to see if you can move around on. See what would be the best for the future. Make it half and half on the screen or see if you can move half. Yeah, I'll test that out for for next time, for sure. I don't want to touch too badly. I've already had a bunch of technical problems to start the day. Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate the advice. It's just we've had a little bit of problems at the start of today. Just with this, we're starting a new system with this, so we'll see. Just so we're not getting the whole stream shut down again. So Zaboral is going. So I believe it might be a 1-to-1. I think it could actually be like a 50. It won't be a 50% because it's a 3-year deal. So maybe not a 50%. But I mean, the truth is, Zaboral is a great ad for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He never really fit in Boston, so I really don't mind the deal as a Bruins fan. So I guess all the waiver guys just came off now. So Boris Tkachuk is going to the Ottawa Senators from the Chicago Blackhawks. So that's another pretty good pickup, as well as I believe Bjorn Fott is another guy that just got picked up. Maybe it's hard. I think obviously this thing's a little bit slow. Twitter's getting overrun by people looking up doing the exact same thing that we're doing right now. So with that in mind, we'll give them a little bit of a break today. You know, it's just all part of the fun, I guess. Okay, so we're looking for the trades, which I think are in here. Here we go. So nothing new has been updated in Cap Friendly yet, which kind of makes sense. I mean, you know, they only report deals that have actually have been confirmed by the league. So I am still waiting on Markstrom, because Markstrom is one more guy that has yet to be announced. So we'll see if, you know, he's, you know, the next guy up. I don't know if he will. So Legason was claimed by Anaheim, so decent. I mean, like the truth is, right? So how do you think the Bruins are doing this year? I know last year was unfortunate. It was a fun season. We look forward to the future. What is your outlook? In my opinion, the Bruins look good right now. The thing with the Bruins, right, is that they're not a skilled team, like compared to the other teams. They have their skilled players. They have Pastrnak, McAvoy, Marchand. You know, they have their skilled players, but what really separates them is their commitment to their tactics, their team buy-in, if you want to call it that. Like, we look at a lot of, for example, you think back to the World Juniors, right, or any sort of international tournaments. Canada always plays on pure skill, a lot like what the Maple Leafs do. Similar with the Americans. The Americans are a lot like the Americans are a lot sort of like the Leafs, where, you know, they play on pure skill. The Canadians are sort of like a hybrid of skill and team commitment. Consider a lot like, you know, sort of like a Colorado of sorts, as well as, you know, the Finns are playing a lot like the Bruins do, right? Where they have a couple skilled players that they build their team around. But at the end of the day, their whole commitment is to their tactics, and that's why they play so well. They run a good, solid trap style D. So right here, Friedge, Bruins have acquired 6'3" right shot defenseman Andrew Peak. So they solve one of their problems with their defenseman. I wouldn't mind seeing. I'm just curious to know if after this trade here, you know, if they somehow, what the heck is that? Gotta love these Twitter ads. These things are out of control now. Um, with just to sort of see what's if anything else comes from it, because I think as of right now, I could be mistaken, but I think Boston is over the cap. So I think that they are going to have to make sort of one more big move to find their way out of it. I don't know who that might be, so I don't want to make an assumption on that, because Zaboril's contract I think is 1,137, and then 2.7 for Peak. So they have to make up some sort of cap room. So I think there's probably one more big move from Boston. Probably taking out a guy like Grizzlick or taking out a guy like Derek Forbert. Both those guys I thought would have moved at this deadline. But obviously nothing has happened quite yet. So, I mean, still lots of time, right? There's still got about 52 minutes left before the end of the day. So we'll see if there is anything new here. NHL trade deadline. See if there's any more people sort of tuning in. Just a lot of memes by the looks of it. So I still, once again, we're just waiting, right? It's at the end of the day, it is a waiting game. I really do like the move for the acquisition of Eric Johnson for the Flyers. I think it's a little bit of an overpay, to be honest, but I mean, you can understand why they're doing it, right? They need to be able to find a way to do that, and they did it. So hats off to them for finding that. Per Friedge, the Bruins have acquired 6'3", and I the more I look at it, the more I like it. It's just a matter of how do they find a way to put him in the lineup. Because what worries me is that, they don't really have the cap for a guy like Peak, like the cap space. So I think there'd be one more move. This is just confirming the original deals. Jake Allen to the Devils. Oh, cool. I just got it on my computer from my phone, and the camera quality when you showed your jersey looked really great. Did you get a new one? The jersey or the camera quality? Yep, so still nothing too new quite yet, but I guess time will tell, right? Because that's the whole fun of it. So Eric Johnson. Yep, so Eric Johnson is still going to the Flyers. Not much has changed on that account. New camera. I've recently found out that I can use my phone as the camera. So I'm just using that now instead of the computer webcam. So I think that's probably the difference that you're seeing. So 11 official trades so far, according to Cap Friendly, which is interesting. I mean, good on them. There's also quite a few trades that have yet to be confirmed that they're still waiting for. This conditional pick was yet another trade where I thought it was a little bit overkill, considering it is Jake Allen. Thank you. At the same time, it's New Jersey is a team that sort of needs that goaltending aspect. I think Jake Allen's a good fit. I think the price was a little high, but at the same time, 50% retained salary. I guess it's a fair sort of point. Okay, so we're slowly but surely heading towards the deadline here. Tobias Bjornfot to the Florida Panthers by the looks of it. But I mean, we got 49 minutes left until the official trade deadline, and then we'll see what other trades slowly but surely roll on in. But yeah, so if you're new here, be sure to like, subscribe, all that, and also let me know down below who's your favorite team, and we can talk a little bit about them if you wish. Otherwise, we can just continue to wait for some exciting trades to be announced. Because really, as of right now, right, it's just a waiting game between who's going to make the next move. I still think Boston's in store for one more move. It is cool how you're able to change between views and how you're able to share between this view and your camera view. So that is the Centennial jersey. Yeah, this is like the 100-year one. So it's like this is their 100th year, so they made some special jerseys. So it was kind of neat. It's a really neat jersey. But we are going to switch back here because it does not appear that any new moves have been made. We'll flip back when we need to. But nonetheless, you're going to see my beautiful face right now. So hopefully that didn't scare you too much. But nonetheless, right, it's all about, just waiting it out. And I think the Bruins still have to shore up a couple things. I think they still have a couple dangling pieces that they could definitely use. So we'll see, whether or not it's going to be who it might be, and if there's anything else that's going to come from it. Can you do another possible view of your patch? This one? Sure. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's kind of neat. The one on your shoulder, and yes, it is very scary. Oh yeah, I don't know if you can see that. There you go. I think that's there. I totally had to jump back from my screen. Well, I apologize for that. I liked. It's just like it's a natural instinct. It's a rawr. Always fun to scare some people. All right, we're almost to the point where we can say that we are 45 minutes away. 46 minutes to go now until the trade deadline. We're getting very, very close to the end. And when it's all said and done, I think Boston has one more move to go. I think Vancouver still has a decently big move to go. Penguins, I'm curious about. Riley Smith was a name that was mentioned a little bit earlier. I think there's a shot that he ends up going. Whether or not it's a good call, I don't really know. I guess time will tell on that account as well. That is so cool. No, I'm playing around. No, I know. Just yanking your chain. How many jerseys are you up to with the Bruins? I got a couple. I don't know exactly. I got a couple at home too. I'm first year in university now, so I don't have all of them with me anymore. I got 2 here. One of them I'm wearing, so I guess up to 2 if you want to say that. I don't really know what I'm looking for here. But anyway, so we're slowly but surely moving towards this deadline here now, right? So I still believe one more trade probably from Boston involving Grzelcyk or Forbort. Just by the way that they've been building this team, I think it might be Grzelcyk. But at the same time, they need a defenseman to come back in that deal. Oh, what did you bring there? I brought the Winter Classic one, the 2010 one, the yellow. So I brought that one with me as well. But yeah, kind of just now waiting for 17 new posts. So something happened here. Still no trades. Just a bunch of guys who are clearing waivers. So okay, this is important. So I'll pull this up now with screen share. We're gonna go there. So with that being said, we got some news here from Chris Johnson, and this is an important note to take. So the Columbus Blue Jackets are not retaining any salary on Andrew Peeke in the deal with the Bruins, which means that the Bruins, I believe, have to make another deal in order to accept, in order to have him in the lineup. I might just double check that on Cap Friendly, but I do believe that following the deal today, I don't believe that they'd have it up quite yet. They really don't have that much space in cap before the deal for right? Because when you look at it, right, here's their right D. You got Shattenkirk, McAvoy, and Carlo. You know, Shattenkirk's been a plug-and-play kind of guy. He's played both sides. Lowry, I've really liked. Wotherspoon, I've really liked. So now it's just a question of who's that extra guy. My opinion, it's either Derek Forbort or Matt Grzelcyk. So I think Grzelcyk is one of those guys that has the potential to be, you know, I just to be traded. I don't know what the next move would be. I mean, Allmark, obviously, he's on his second last year, right? So could be interesting to see whether or not he goes as well. But Hampus Lindholm as well is another guy, right? He's coming off the IR shortly as well. So he's another guy that you have to take into account. Otherwise, you stick him back on LTIR and just accept that, you know, it is what it is. Because one of the biggest problems for the Bruins, we look here, is all the overages that they have from the previous season, right? Because they overloaded their bonuses for Bergeron and Krejci's contract. And so this is sort of the end result. Because they didn't think they'd be that good this year. And, you know, sure enough, they're first in the league, and they made a couple minor deals. I like the pickup for Peak. I just don't know if if it's going to be their last move. I think they have probably one more move in them. It's just a matter of what that move might be. Red Wings searching for a veteran. So Red Wings have one more move. I can't remember who it was earlier in the chat. Someone was asking about the Red Wings. So it does look like Yzerman's doing one more sort of minor move. But we'll see if there is anything there. Oh, okay. So correction to the I'll head out in 15 minutes. Just wanted to let you know ahead of time. Oh, you got the Bruins water bottle too. Oh yeah, you gotta have the Bruins water bottle. Otherwise, it's just it's not proper. It's good water out of it, though, I gotta say. But this is an interesting point. So back to the that Jake Allen trade. I really do like this move for the Montreal Canadiens. You know, I think it's a fair. I just need the hat. Yeah, exactly. But it is a fair move because, I mean, Jake Allen would play 40 games if he is the starter for the Devils. And I think the Devils are going to be looking to make their way all the way up next year. We'll see if that's going to happen. It's an interesting sort of move. We'll see if there's anything else to it. I think when we look at it, right, because there is Vanacek out in New Jersey. Allen, in my opinion at least, is better than Vitek Vanacek. By next year, that might change. I don't know. But we'll see, because it's only 40 games in next season. So 40 games is normally what a starter will play. Because if you think about it, there's 82 games in a year. 45 to 50 of them are normally go to the starter. So if Jake Allen serves as a starter, you know, otherwise you might see one of those sort of tandems we've seen with the Bruins. But it is sort of a weird deal in my opinion. It's an expensive deal is what I will say. Not so much that it's a bad deal, it's just sort of a weird deal. Why New Jersey made this deal? That is fair. Like, it is an expensive deal. Like, you could probably have gotten a better goaltender with it, but nonetheless, that is what it is. Wonderful team, Podkolzin. So nothing exciting there. As we just continue to wait. So I'm going to run to the washroom real quick. So I will be back in a flash. Alrighty, so welcome on back as we continue to look at the trades that have happened. So not too much here has happened since we took a little bit of a break. Once again, we're just slowly but surely moving through the trades. A couple are left. Move it over to here. Move it over to there. Move it over to that one, which should now be working. Perfect. Okay, so with that being said, right, lots of trades still to happen today. We're just under, I believe, a half hour now. So it's 2:23, so we have about 36 minutes left to play here. So we'll see whether or not there's any more moves. I sort of touched on it a little bit, but I do expect there to be one more sort of trade, if you want to call it that, for the Boston Bruins. I think Grzelcyk and Forbort are two guys that have yet to move that I think probably should end up being on the move. I just find it hard to believe that Boston's willing to go that tight to the cap. You know, they didn't retain any salary in the peak deal, so they're losing a little bit of salary there. And so they're going to be like really, really tight considering Hampus Lindholm's also coming back. So there won't be any little LTIR magic, which will be interesting. And I think whether or not there's going to be another big move, I don't know. Obviously, Markstrom's name, I assume, would still be floating around as of this current moment. But at the end of the day, it's hard to tell. It is hard to tell. But that being said, lots of time still to go, right? That's the one nice thing about the trade deadline is, you know, it's everyone wants to make that final move together. So we'll see if they make that little trade call. So, I mean, we'll see, right? Because this one's sort of telling, right? This is, you know, I got Okposo, I got Gensel, I got Hanifin, I got a Rock, right? It's Boston has one final move, in my opinion, that they're going to make here to really solidify themselves. It won't be a star player. I should probably note that because the truth is, the way Boston plays in their system, it doesn't really need a star player. All it needs is someone who's just sort of that solid player willing to buy into the team role. And that's why normally you don't see Boston go at deadlines after big players. Aside from last year, you know, where they really did, they went for it, right? They went for the Stanley Cup last year and they just fell short. A huge favor. Does the front patch on the jersey have the 1924? Yep. Yeah, it does. Give me 1 second. I just got to figure out how to put the screen back on. Dude. Yep. So, all right. So we are back on that screen now, so I can sort of show you. That's what the front crest looks like. So it's kind of cool. It's a neat little jersey that they got. But with that being said, right, we're almost at the end of the half hour mark, right? So normally about the half hour mark, it's the final calls of the decision. So we'll see. You know, we'll see if there's one final big move from a team that really wants to solidify themselves as the be all end all of the trade deadline. See if there's one final winner team that comes through with an undeniable deal for a guy like Sidney Crosby, a guy like Jacob Markstrom. I just think it's an interesting one, right? Because there's lots of players still out there to go, and it really just is going to come down to a matter of who it might be. Oh, Cooler looks pretty awesome. Thanks for showing up, of course. It is a really cool jersey. Like it is a neat one. So yeah. But anyway, so we're just waiting now for another trade, and I honestly do think Boston is the next team to make a move, whether that's with the Vancouver Canucks, who they've been in trade talks with. Obviously, they're both high-end teams, so their goaltending wouldn't be a discussion point, I don't think. The Leafs have been eerily quiet today. I mean, they have got their guys a little bit earlier in the week, But at the same time, are the Leafs contenders? Are they pretenders? Are they just going to become another team that's going to sort of just die out at the end? I think there is the potential for that. Is that what's going to happen? Who knows? But I think there's definitely the potential, for the Leafs to make one final splash to shore up their goaltending. Obviously, Trey Leving is in a particular spot. So the two goalies that are on the market, one of them is Allmark, who's obviously a division rival, who will likely play in the first round. So the cost will be expensive. And then the other one is his former team with the Calgary Flames with Jacob Markstrom. So I think it's just going to be a matter of will he be willing to accept what was once there. I just find it hard to believe that he'd be willing to trade with his former team and willing to trade with a division rival. So I think the Leafs might be done at this point. It's hard to say unless there's another goaltender that sort of pops up out of the blue, which I don't really suspect will happen. Not to the caliber that Wall and Samsonov aren't already. Because you think about it, right? There's three goalies. Sort of talked about this off the top, but there's three goalies you're looking at with the Leafs. It's number one. It's Joseph Wall. Then you have Martin Jones, and you got I wish the best for the Bruins. Glad to have popped in. Thanks for the live coverage of the trade deadline. Great. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and hope to see you out soon. But with that being said, the Leafs have some goaltending problems. I hope you do too. And the Leafs have goaltending problems. So with that being said, right, it's all about what the Leafs can do to shore that up. It's really difficult to believe in a system where you just kind of struggle a little bit. But I guess time will tell here. Obviously, we're just about to the point of the half. We have hit now the half-hour mark to go before the trade deadline is officially upon us. So with that being said, if you are new here, we should like, subscribe, all of that. For plenty of more international coverage, which will be coming our way in just over a month's time. That's what we're going to be shifting over to, as obviously this channel does pride itself on its international coverage. We got the Women's World Championship coming up, I believe at the end of the month. I believe it might be the 26th or the 24th. Team Canada did release their roster yesterday, so we'll have a full video coming up on that in a little bit. Just a little bit closer to the actual event, so that way we can, it sort of flows in the stream of the content. But also Switzerland did as well. I think both teams are looking pretty good, actually, considering what they got. Obviously, with the PWHL taking full effect. Oh, so there's actually an addition to the Jacob Zaboral trade, and that's interesting. Okay, so it's now become Jacob Zaboral and a 2027 third-round pick in exchange for Andrew Peeke. So that makes me feel a little bit worse about the deal, considering there was no retained salary, which, I mean, I just want to make sure there's nothing else down here that I missed. I'm just going to talk about this trade because this trade is relevant. So this deal is an interesting one. I don't know where this third round pick came from. I don't think that's a good deal, to be honest with you. Like, it was a good deal if you take that third round pick out. For both teams, I think it's a good, but the third round pick's a little concerning, I gotta say, in the Bruins' case. I can't imagine. Yeah. Yikes. That's terrible, frankly. I was under the impression that this deal had no picks involved. So that is they came out of the blue with that one. I don't know if that's a typo or if add a third round pick in addition to that. That is not good. That is not good, frankly. I don't know what to say. Like, he's not, in my opinion, Andrew Peeke is not that good for an extra third round pick on top of Zaboral. I'm honestly kind of surprised about that. I'm just trying to process that right now. I don't know where that third round pick came from. That's not a good deal for the Bruins. That's just not. All right, so now they really need to make another move here just to make sure that this deal actually. I think this was their big deal, maybe, that if they're adding a third round pick. But Grzelcyk has to be gone at this point. I don't understand why they'd trade away a draft pick. That makes no sense. I'm kind of surprised about that, to be honest. Peak was potentially trending towards a buyout this summer. Yeah, that doesn't. Wow, I am kind of surprised about that. Yeah, that makes no sense to me. I gotta say, I'm a little surprised about that, just considering, I think that might have been Boston's big move. And I don't know why they would have made this deal unless they thought they were getting something, but they don't. Ooh, that's not good. That is not good at all. You want to see some fun chatter? Watch this one. Another trade incoming. Good luck. Oh, it's actually a lot more civilized. Please do it. Yeah. They got to figure out how they're gonna get around the cap now. I think that's the next problem here. I'm very surprised by the addition of the third round pick, because when they first reported it, it was just a 1-for-1. And the fact that there's no salary retention either. He's on a 3-year deal at 2.7, which makes it a lot worse. It's not a good deal. Come on, Don, pull through, buddy. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what he was thinking there. Like, don't get me wrong, Peak's a good player, but he's not worth Zaboral and a third, in my opinion. Let's see what... I'm curious to know what the Bruins' cap hit is, because I'm pretty sure as of this current moment, they're, like, over it. Maybe not. I guess maybe not. 27, 65, 73, 73, 80, I guess, oh no, but then the overages. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that they are actually over what they're supposed to have. So I got to imagine there's one more deal that's coming here. Now, what that deal is, I don't really know. But I don't like that. Frankly, I don't like that. I think it. I don't like that at all. I think that's a terrible deal, frankly. I think they could have done a lot better. That's not good. That is, ooh, I don't like that. That's not good. Alright, let's check back in here to see if anything else has happened. Oh, look at that. Well, if it isn't bad enough that Boston can't actually get a player, oh, I apologize. Matt Dumba is now headed to the Tampa Bay Lightning as a division contender, which just makes it even worse that Boston hasn't done anything. Yeah. So as right here, right? So Frank Cervalli even put, our friends at Cap Friendly say Bruins need to make another move to have peak work on their cap. So, I mean, the truth is, I don't know why Boston would have entered into this deal without getting some salary retention. Because you have to imagine that that's what the third pick was for. And at least in my opinion, that's what the third pick should have been for. So I guess we'll see. Obviously, still lots of time to go for the Bruins to make their final move of the deadline. I think it'll be one more decently sized move. I think this Dumba move will be the sort of the kick it into gear move for the Bruins. I think when you look at it, it's telling them that, we have to make a move here. You got 22 minutes left on this deadline before, everything gets shut down. So, I mean, I don't know. It's just it's an interesting sort of maneuver here. Yeah, I'm shocked by that move. I can't believe that. That is frankly terrible. Frankly, I mean, you can't expect to get away with that. That is, wow. I'm shocked that there's no salary retention there. Yikes. Forbert, Grizzlick. It has to be one of those two. I don't see a world where it's not one of those two, though. Matt Dumba. Yep. Okay, Matt Dumba, great. Awesome. Luke Toporowski. Okay, let's see what Saravalli has to report this time. Saravalli is just full of bad news. Sources say Yotes trading Matt Dumba. Okay, so nothing there. That is actually really funny.
Creek. Block shots.
I mean,
I think he
he's
broke the
Mr.
record
block
for block
shot.
shots in a season last year. So
that is
appreciate
funny.
all.
So anyway, just not a good deal for the Bruins. I'm kind of shocked that they could get away with that level of a steal. Yeah, so Cap Friendly. Yeah, so Cap Friendly agrees with that. So, I mean, this is the problem, right? Is the Bruins aren't poised to be able to keep them, which means there has to be one more move coming. Who that might be, I don't know as of this moment anymore. A lot of the names that I was expecting to come to Boston have now came off the board. The next move, I think, is Allmark to the Leafs. It's got to be. Allmark to the Leafs. If Allmark goes to the Leafs, I don't know. Everyone will subscribe to this channel. That's good. I got a hunch. A hunch and a prayer right here. That's all you can need. Alright, let's see what Markstrom's kicking around with. Any team still interested? I don't think Stars for Fitz to hand us a 33-year-old goaltender with a sub-900 save percentage. Battery next year, trade Vanacek, Brashov, Schmidt, and Dawes for a year. I mean, this becomes the problem, right? With this without Markstrom, it's just another mediocre goaltender. So I guess we'll see here. So emergency loan back to the minors, I believe. Dumba. I think Dumba's on LTIR right now, though, so I think that's part of the reason why they're doing it. Boris Kachuk. But we'll see here. I'm still not happy about this deal, for the record. Apparently there's no retention. I can't believe that they'd make that deal without any retention on them. They clearly didn't think this deal through. Because it's been announced as not thinged. Very, very surprised by that move. It's just not a good move, frankly. But nonetheless, all right. We are now at 17 minutes away from the deadline. We'll see who Boston decides to go after. I have this very bad feeling that Sweeney's about to go do something really stupid and just trade away one of the defensemen for nothing. Whether that be Forbert or Grizzlick for like a pick. It's just a hunch, but I have this strong hunch that it's not going to be a good one. Show one post. Give it to me. Caps swung their third deal of the week, sending Evgeny Kuznetsov, so same one as before. But nonetheless, this is it's not a good deal, right? So it is important to also note that the Yotes, or Coyotes rather, have traded Dumba to the Tampa Bay Lightning. So we're just waiting to see what the return is there. I guarantee you it's probably a lot less than what they traded for Andrew Peeke for the Bruins. But nonetheless, we'll see, because Boston is over the cap as of right now. So it means that there has to be one more move coming. What that next move is, I don't really have a good idea, to be honest. But either look at it now, right? So, all right, you ready for this one? You ready to be laughed at? Let's laugh at Bruins fans again. It's my favorite time of the year when Don Sweeney just looks dumb. Matt Dumba in a 7th in 2025 in exchange for a 5th round pick. No salary retention on Dumba. So Tampa gets a player and gets an increase in pick. And I'm pretty sure they can stick him directly on the LTIR. So anyway, it is what it is. Glad that happened. Potentially Arizona might be clearing out for a trade with the Bruins. I don't know. It's an unfortunate deal, I gotta say. I'm not overly happy, considering that Tampa once again is getting better while Boston is definitely declining. But I mean, I'm just looking to see if, I can see the score of that. What is this one? Magnus Hellberg for Ludovic Leiber in his conditional 7, so nothing too important there. We got 15 minutes left in this trade deadline. We're just about there, and Boston is yet to make their move. They have to make one more to be able to become cap compliant. Now it's just a matter of what that move is going to be. I really don't know, to be honest, and I think it has to come relatively shortly. But I don't know. We'll see. What's throwing me for a loop right now is I'm trying to put a name that could be out, that could work with the Bruins. I just don't know what that move might be, because a lot of the defensemen that I'd originally looked at are now off the market. So we'll see if it's anything. Show one post. Contending teams, goalies do you trust the least? I'd say the Leafs are definitely up there. New Jersey is certainly up there. Let's do the old look at the goaltending from down the line. So Florida's good goaltending. Boston's good goaltending. The Leafs are, they have streaky goaltending. Is that what they want? I don't know. Rangers are fine. Hurricanes are fine. Flyers obviously have a little bit of problems, but I don't think it'd be too bad. Red Wings, it is what it is. Tampa will be fine. It's hard to tell, right? I don't know where. It's hard to imagine what Boston's next move is going to be. I'm looking forward to seeing what it is. I think there's a lot of room for Sweeney to make his move. But he is running out of time. We have now 13 minutes left. And, is it going to be Swayman? Or, sorry, not Swayman. It's going to be well, they could trade Swayman too. But is it going to be Allmark? Will it be somebody else? Will that be the last goalie hug we've ever seen? It's hard to say, right? It is hard to say. But we are running out of time here for the Bruins to make their final move. So I am a little bit curious to know what the next sort of move is, and I wouldn't mind actually checking out the NHL rumors page, because they tend to have some decent stuff. NHL rumors daily. These guys tend to know what's up with the Bruins. I guess they don't anymore, which is fine. I haven't reported in about an hour. But the truth is, the Bruins have kicked around on just about every name, so now it's just a matter of time. Eagle has landed. This isn't too big. Hellberg was Yep. There's a juniors guy way back in the day too. Yeah, there's nothing too exciting about that deal. Frankly, they're just trying to. That's actually an interesting move. So it's been reported that Max Pacioretty is going to be staying in Washington. Remember, Washington's down here. He was offered he had the option of waiving his no move clause to go to a contending team. The Capitals asked him if he wanted to. He said no. So frankly, that's why it's us. He's going to stick it out with his team. I mean, they are technically in playoff contention, right? If they win out and they're at 73 points compared to Tampa's 72, they would in theory be above them. Whether or not that actually happens, it is hard to say. But I mean, that's the nice thing, right? Is that they're a decent team that just, if Ovi can stay hot like he is, he's not only chasing the goal record, but they might be chasing a Stanley Cup again. They have to shore up a couple things, albeit, but I mean, I guess time will tell. So Elberg, so this is what I was talking about here with Max Pacioretty. He will be staying in Washington, and I do like that idea for him. I mean, he's found his way around, but it is what it is at the end of the day. I am very curious, though, because Boston has yet to make their move. We are now 10 minutes away from the deadline, and Boston, apparently, according to Cap Friendly at least, has to make a move in order to get under the cap. And, oh, no. Who's ready for another deal to shore up yet another Atlantic or Eastern Conference contender, rather? With the... Jack Roslovic going to the New York Rangers. Oh, boy. This trade should be popping up in this feed shortly. Here we go. And sources say Jack Roslovic from the Columbus Blue Jackets in exchange for a mid-round pick in 26. So yet another good deal for the New York Rangers. We've seen this time and time and time again that the Rangers have found their groove in this trade deadline. We saw it last year too. They seem to be knowing what they're looking for, and I really do like this move for the Rangers. But they're looking like a solid contender. And I think when we look at winners of this deadline, you look at the Vegas Golden Knights as one team. I think Vegas sort of lost a little bit of traction. I was surprised not to see at least one more move from them. So Vegas is one, New York's another, Colorado's another one that I really liked. I like the moves that they made. But really, other than that, there wasn't too many. Winnipeg was a pretty good one with Toffoli, and earlier was Sean Monahan as well. So that was it was a good one. As mentioned this morning and early on that network, Vegas is making traction on another big move for a player with term. We'll see if they can get this to the finish line, which is just splendid because, yet again, we think about it, right? It makes sense because when we look at the picks that Vegas actually has, we'll go here. The picks Vegas has, right? They still have their first this year. In theory, they could also have their first in 2025 if they choose to trade that. So they really do have 2 first-round picks. Wouldn't be surprised to see them go after a guy like Sidney Crosby. That's obviously a joke, but, I mean, you really never know nowadays, right? Because, I mean, Crosby's clearly not happy with his place in Pittsburgh, so we'll see if Dubas can completely wreck the team by 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But we'll still see. There's still lots of time to go. We'll see if there's any big moves that sort of hit as the deadline closes here. Yep, just so, once again, just sort of waiting here, just to see if there's any more big moves with Vegas, because Pagnotta did just note that there was likely going to be a big trade between Vegas. So Kyle Dubas is speaking to the media. That one might be a disaster. Curious to know what he's up to. All right, so nothing has been, he hasn't talked quite yet, but Jack Roslovic from Columbus to New York. So still nothing new on that account. I do like the move for the Rangers to pick up Jack Roslovic. You know, he's been bounced around a little bit. You know, you think back to the Winnipeg trade. But at the end of the day, it's a good, solid pickup for the Rangers. Good sort of bottom six kind of guy. And the Rangers have been collecting guys like they're, you know, infinity stones. It just seems to be, you know, just coming in abundance for them. So we'll see what's next for the Rangers, if anything. I mean, I would have counted them out for any big moves, but obviously there's still a little bit of time left. I'd be curious to know what Boston's up to. You know, I haven't heard anything about Boston yet. They need to be making a move in order to become cap compliant. So the closer to the deadline we move, the more likely it is Don Sweeney's just going to drop some, you know, just sort of drop it off to some random guy, you know, random team, and say, here, take Grzelcyk for like a 7th round pick. So, I mean, time will tell, right? We'll see who's next up on the list. Because, I mean, the one team that probably could use, I mean, if you want to look at DeBrusk, one guy that's always rumored with is the Edmonton Oilers. So they're another team where I think there is a potential for a team like the Oilers to go after a guy. But, I mean, I guess time will tell. The Oilers have always liked DeBrusk. I mean, obviously the hometown thing with his dad working there, I mean, it does work a little bit better, but I mean, we'll see if the Oilers are one of the teams that good old Don Sweeney calls. But I guess we will see. Just waiting for anything to refresh here. Oh, here we go. See if anything's new. And sure enough, Frank Saravalli ruins my day yet again with the good old-fashioned, the Edmonton Oilers are done their shopping. But, I mean, it is what it is, right? Like, they've got their team pretty well down now, so it's just a matter of what's next for if the Bruins can actually pull something off. I'm getting a little worried they're just going to do the old drop-off here. Oh, Roslovic is, I believe it's a 4th is what that said. It just got a little cut off. We will see here. Let's see, is anything new here? So the deal is a 4th round pick that becomes a 3rd if the Rangers reach the Stanley Cup Finals. So that's a decent deal actually for the New York Rangers. Once again, they're getting their value out of it. The Blue Jackets can't rip off 2 teams; they can only rip off the one. So Roslovic to the Rangers for a 4th round pick. Rangers are definitely the winners of that trade, in my opinion, but still a decent return for the Columbus Blue Jackets, just not to the same level that it was before. As we approach here, we're about 3 minutes off the deadline. Remember, trades can still move in after the deadline hits. So we'll see if any of those end up happening. Obviously, there will always be a couple. And as we sort of talked about, right, there are going to be a couple deals that come in late. Now it's going to become just a matter of, you know, what might it be? As it does appear that there is a trade call pending. I'm not too sure what it is. And I do apologize. I do have the thing on the phone as well, just to make sure, because it comes in first and then it hits the computer. So we will see who that might be. I'm not too sure who it is as of yet. But time will tell. See if Saravalli's got it. Nope, Saravalli is now done. So 4 new posts. So here we go. Oh, wow. So here's one for you. So this is the joy of being a Boston Bruins fan, is that you can't get nice things because Vegas is going to acquire Tomas Hertl from the San Jose Sharks, which is kind of crazy. I guess I don't follow Bob McKenzie, which I probably should. But that is a huge deal. That is massive. That is huge, huge, huge. And Colin Miller is going back to the Winnipeg Jets. That's another good one for the Jets. Oh, no, wait. Yeah, Connor Miller is going to the Jets. That's another good one. I really do like Colin Miller. Used to be a Bruin too, so he was always pretty good. And this one is one I'm really, really curious about to learn what the details are here, because that honestly could be a massive deal. This is, you can see it, right? 1K reposts already. That's back to New Jersey. Colin Miller to the Jets. Tomas Hertl to the Vegas Golden Knights on top of what they already have. That is Vegas lines. Like, this is crazy. You think about where he fits in on this team, right? Not to mention, sure, these guys, like, look at that defense core. Holy. And, like, look, they got Mark Stone, Carrier, Brett Howden. Their defense isn't even complete with Alec Martinez. This team had Tomas Hertl to this list, and oh my God, it's over. This is a tough break. Will Lagesson from the Leafs to the Ducks. Tomas Hertl. Oh my gosh, wow. Good for them. Yep. Well, that's an interesting one, I gotta say. I can't say I was expecting that. Let's flip over to the old Cap Friendly to see what his contract is at right now. So it feels like just the other day we were looking at Timo Meier moving. So 2023-2024. So he's got another 6 years on his contract. This is year 2 of his 8-year deal. And wow, that's a big deal, I gotta say. I am very much impressed with that move. That is crazy. What a move. Wow. I'm very curious to know what the return is on that. That is an impressive impressive move by the Vegas Golden Knights. So sounds like first rounders going back to San Jose for the Hertl deal. I mean, makes sense, right? Like, we weren't expecting much less than that, I don't believe. But that is an excellent deal. It's an excellent deal. So it is now 3 o'clock, which means that all deals are now done. So the Bruins are, I guess, I'm waiting for the Bruins deal, which should be done, but still does not appear so. First rounders going back for the Hertl deal, so probably looking at those 2 picks that they had, right? Because we think about that, the first deal that they did with the Hanifin, the condition was they could either trade the 25, this year's 24, 25, or 26. So they'll likely send the 24 and the 25 for Hertl, and send the 26 to Calgary for Hanifin. That is a heck of a deal. Here we go. Let's see. Bob Fowler walks in on Trade Center, set into semi-retirement, and drops that Thomas Hertl bomb. That is crazy. I'm shocked. Wow. That's a huge deal. See, now I'm just interested to know what Boston's going to do to match that, if anything. Wow. That's crazy. I think the clear clear deadline winner now has to be... Canucks are done. No moves into not... Oh, so the Canucks did not end up signing Kessel, which means Kessel's now a free agent and can't play in the playoffs. So that's kind of an interesting one. So as we look here, Florida... if we're actually looking at it, right, every team but Boston did really well today. Boston got Pat Maroon and a right defenseman. New York got the mother load. Carolina got the mother load. Philadelphia made a couple good moves. Detroit made a couple minor moves. Tampa got Dumba. So everyone basically improved today. Dallas did, I don't think, really anything too much. Winnipeg had a couple big moves to Foley, to name one, and I believe there was one other one towards the end of the day. Colorado made their moves earlier in the week. Vancouver didn't really make too many moves, which is surprising. The Oilers didn't make too many big moves, but they don't really need to. They had a pretty solid team. The Kings, same sort of thing. Nashville made a couple moves. Vegas, obviously the winners of the deadline. They'll be looking to definitely make a deep cup run this year. I'd be surprised if they didn't. And we'll flip back over here just to make sure we aren't missing anything. But wow, I'm shocked by that. That is a heck of a move. And we're going to just return in a few minutes' time here.